Hello viewers, every day there is some muck coming up from Bollywood. Skeletons are tumbling out and there is new revelation about how the drug mafia is linked to Bollywood. This comes soon after the death of Sushant Singh Rajput on June 14. Now fresh revelations have come that two senior politicians, 3 senior police officers and around 6 senior actors are all involved in so-called drug cartel. This is probably why the Mumbai police sat on the file of Rajput suicide or Rajput's death for a long time, and the Supreme Court had to intervene and hand it over to the CBI. Probably the police wanted to hush up the names that might crop up, and they didn't even file an FIR. Now, after the CBI took over and the NCB or the Narcotics Control Bureau took over, now things have started coming out. It is now said that there is a huge drug racket or a drug cartel behind Sushant Singh Rajput. And he is not alone. There are a lot of other people also involved in this drug mafia. Now, Rajput was a simple young boy who came from Bihar to fulfill his dreams in Bollywood. But then what happened was, after his sudden success, he had huge pile of money, he had fame behind it, and so people started queuing up to his doors, especially the drug mafia. Now what happens is that during the drug mafia, the parties that they are forced to attend certain parties, and in these rave parties, drug is distributed, and Sushant Singh Rajput fell prey to it, and that's how it started. The CBI has now questioned Riya Chakrabarti, who was a live-in partner of Sushant Singh Rajput, Riya's father, Riya's brother Shauvik, and a series of names have started tumbling out. People who are closely connected or are distributors of drugs. This is how the drug cartel's name came up, and more so, the CBI has released or leaked conversations between the drug cartel and Sushant Singh Rajput's friends, including Riya Chakrabarti. These conversations on WhatsApp and other media, they reveal that there was a drug mafia operating clandestinely to trap Rajput. And once he entered into this particular drug mafia or the drug cartel, there was no going back. It was like Chakravyuh. Once you enter, you do not know how to exit. And then what happened was, day by day, people started manipulating the mind of Rajput. Sushant Singh fell prey to such manipulations, and he had no other go. He had depression. And as people in Bollywood say, depression is natural in Bollywood actors, but once it is triggered by drugs, the withdrawal of drugs, it's very difficult to get over this depression. And this depression probably led to his suicide. But that's not the only case. Now, what led to his depression was these people who manipulated him. People who are closely connected to the drug industry, people who are closely connected to this drug cartel as such in Mumbai. And he was not the only victim. There are other victims also in Bollywood. And things are becoming very serious now. And so we need to look into what exactly is happening in Bollywood. Recently, Sushant Singh's driver Mustaq gave an interview, an inside story of what happened in Bollywood or what happened in the life of Sushant. Now, Mustaq says that Sushant was just an ordinary guy. He was a guy from the middle class. He came, he had good looks, and he was a good actor. But as fame started coming up, according to Mustaq, people started visiting him, especially very shady characters who started visiting him. And so the India Today interview goes on to show that not just Sushant, everyone across Bollywood, a large community of people in Bollywood were victims of drugs. For example, the interview has gone into the details of certain choreographers, musicians, all these people who attended rave parties in the night to celebrate. And these parties started at about 9 o'clock in the night and went on till about 11 to 12 the next day morning. And insiders say that there is no rave party or there is no party in Bollywood without the involvement of drugs. Now, how are these drugs delivered? According to inside sources, an ordinary man, a normal man would come in a rickety scooter and deliver the drugs. No one would suspect him because he's not a glamorous person, there's nothing involved. But the network is built up, inside to bring these drugs to these people. And then once these drugs come in, what happens is these parties start and people come drugged, and without coke or without drug, these parties don't go on. This includes not only singers, not only musicians, not only directors, but also, female actors and others who are celebrities in Bollywood. And this is where the story of Sushant started. Now, will this lead to a cleanup of Bollywood? It's very, very doubtful because people who are very powerful are involved. They can easily hush up the case. But since the CBI the CBI is involved and it is being monitored by the Supreme Court, the Narcotics Bureau is there, all these people are involved. So obviously something is going to happen. But let me tell you, this was not the Bollywood of the 1960s. There was the people who had chronicled the Bollywood of 1960s would tell you that actors like Dharmendra, actors like Dilip Kumar, and all found an easy entry into Bollywood without any problem, and they had no airs at all. Movies were very, very simple. They're shot in very small locations in houses in Delhi or in Mumbai or in Kolkata or other places, not much of outdoor shooting. And in fact, it would be a surprise that Dilip Kumar, Lata Mangeshkar, and other people used to travel by the local suburban trains either to the shooting site or for recording the music. That was an era, an innocent era of the 1960s when people like Rishikesh Mukherjee and others made films that were very warm, reflected the middle class and the aspiring India of those times. But then what happened was, in the late 70s, Haji Mastana, the underworld don and a smuggler, he had a great love for Bollywood. He entered into the fray and he started financing Bollywood big time. That was the starting point of the decline in Bollywood. Now, he pumped in money because producers never got money from bank because banks never recognized, according to RBI rules, banks did not recognize film production as an industry. It's only after 2000 that the recognition came. So, Haji Mastana came into the film industry. In fact, he was so enamored by Bollywood that he married a lookalike of Madhubala called Sona. And he started pumping in money. This was because Bollywood and films actually was not recognized as an industry by the banks. So they never got money from the banks. So using this particular loophole, Haji Mastana started pumping in black money to Bollywood. So Bollywood suddenly found that they had huge stash of money that they could lay hands on. So the films went outdoor. There was a lavish, parties. There were outdoor locales, and suddenly the canvas became very big. Then, in the 80s, what happened was another man called Dawood Ibrahim, who was involved in the Mumbai blast. He entered into the fray. He doubled the money that Haji Mastana used to pump in, and he splashed. He just gave money to Bollywood. Just squandered money in the sense because he was also enamored with Bollywood. So then what happened was Bollywood suddenly found that they had huge money at stake or huge money to spend. So they started going to Switzerland, started going to other places, London, Europe, US, and suddenly the canvas became huge. Huge money was involved. That was the time when you had parties that started in Bollywood. And Dawood Ibrahim is one of the people who promoted these parties. The money that he spent was obviously black money, was terror money, was due to drugs. And then Bollywood uses money. So there is a linkage between Bollywood, drugs, terror, dating back to the 1980s and 1990s. That is where the decline of Bollywood started. And that decline is still continuing, and Rajput is the victim of this particular decline, or this sorry state of affairs that's happening in Bollywood. Once Bollywood recovers from this, it's very doubtful they would recover, but then this is where Bollywood now stands. Who will clean up this muck is to be seen. Now, part of the story was told by a very bold actor, Kangana Ranaut. Now, after Sushant's suicide, she came to the forefront and she said, well, what Riya Chakravarti is saying is only a part of the story of Rajput, that he had drugs. But what actually was not said was that Bollywood is deeply involved in this and how people are trying to manipulate the actors. Kangana goes on to say that when she was a young actor at 16 and 17, when she came from Uttar Pradesh, when she came new to Bollywood, many people, many big time people, she in fact names Mahesh Bhatt. She says people tried to manipulate her mind, tried to pull her into these parties. But then she was an extremely good actor, a talented actor, and so she resisted all this. But now she says that she's ready to testify what is happening in Bollywood, the role of the drug mafia, the role of big people, the role of politicians, and the role of even police people, the top police people, provided the center gives her protection. Now it is to be seen whether she would come forward and the CBI would really take up her cause, and then that more names would come in. But then, seriously speaking, Kangana has to speak out further and give evidence to the CBI so that we know the full story of what is happening in Bollywood. And Rajput would get his due. Till then, it's very difficult to actually come to the truth of what is happening. So Kangana should speak out, people like Kangana should speak out, but what is happening against Riya Chakravarti should not really, take place, because she's being vilified on social media, on TV platforms. Let her have a say. Let her tell what actually she has to say. But then, the character assassination should stop. Unless until that happens, the truth will not come out. Now, this issue of drug involvement of film industry, involvement of politicians, involvement of police people, it's not new only to Bollywood. Just as the story was coming up in Bollywood, there is another story emerging from Karnataka. The Narcotics Control Bureau arrested 3 people, Anika Desai, Anup, and Rajesh, in drugs, for trafficking in drugs. And they revealed that a lot of celebrities in Karnataka, film personalities, were involved in drugs, in taking of drugs, and that there is a huge cartel at work. Now, Indrajit Lankesh, a film director, voluntarily went to the police and revealed certain names. Following this, now the Karnataka Narcotics Control Bureau is going to interview or going to interrogate Rajni Dwivedi, one of the leading actresses in Karnataka, for her involvement in drugs. There also the story is almost similar. The drugs are available in rave parties, but there's a slight difference. I would call it a difference because these drugs are supplied to the hi-fi rave parties happening in Bengaluru. The same happening in Mumbai also. There are a lot of rave parties which do not involve film personalities, but children of famous personalities, of children of the rich. These people attend rave parties where drug is distributed. Same thing is happening in Karnataka. But the story does not end there. These drug mafia none of these people have revealed after interrogation that senior CPM leader Kodiyari Balakrishnan's son Vinesh, he had financed one of these drug peddlers, for operating a hotel from where this drug was distributed. That was the hub. Now you have politicians across, even from the CPM in Kerala, operating in Karnataka, or rather the children of CPM leaders operating in Karnataka and financing the drug mafia. Of course, Vinesh has denied it, but then even then the money is involved. So, in fact, what happened is even Kumaraswamy, H.D. Kumaraswamy, the former Chief Minister of Karnataka, had said that it was this drug mafia who actually pumped in money and brought down his government. So the drug mafia is getting huge across India, and the coming days will tell us what exactly is the role of drug mafia. And mind you, this drug mafia is connected to the Middle East, to the people in UAE, the people in UAE, and the doubt is that terror financing is also happening through the drug mafia. So a complete investigation only will reveal the truth of what is happening in Bollywood and other film industries. That is where the story of Sushant will lead us to. Let's wait for the coming days of the nexus between film industry and drug cartel. But mind you, one dangerous thing is that this money is coming for drug financing also. So the coming days will tell us the story. Wait till that happens. Thank you.